The fluorescent lights flickered twice before settling into their usual hum. A sound so constant, I barely noticed it anymore. Like the beating of my own heart. I lay in bed, staring at the concrete ceiling 6 feet above my face, counting the cracks I'd memorized years ago. 47. There were always 47. Today was October 5th, 2024. 10 years. 10 years since the world ended. 10 years since Dad saved us. 10 years since I'd felt real sunlight on my skin or breathed air that didn't taste recycled and stale. I was 8 years old when the bombs fell. Now I was 18, and I'd spent more than half my life in this concrete box, 20 feet beneath the Montana wilderness. Maya! Breakfast! Mom's voice echoed through the bunker, soft, almost fragile, like everything else about her. I swung my legs over the side of the narrow bed and planted my feet on the cold floor. The shock of it was the only thing that made me feel real most mornings. My room was 8 feet by 10 feet. I knew because I'd measured it once, pacing heel to toe like Dad taught me during one of his survival mathematics lessons. 8 by 10, 80 square feet. Enough for a bed, a small desk, a shelf of books I'd read so many times I could recite them from memory. There used to be another bed in here. I paused at that thought, my hand frozen on the doorknob. Where had that come from? There was only one bed. There had always been only one bed. Hadn't there? I shook off the strange feeling and stepped into the main living area. The bunker was laid out like a submarine, efficiency over comfort, function over form. The main room served as kitchen, dining area, classroom, and living room all at once. A long table dominated the center, surrounded by 4 chairs. Mom stood at the small stove, stirring something in a pot. The smell of reconstituted eggs filled the air, not real eggs, of course. We'd run out of anything real years ago. Good morning, sweetheart. Mom didn't turn around. She never did anymore. Sit down. Your father has something planned for today. The anniversary. I said. That's right. 10 years of survival. 10 years of family. Her voice was bright. Too bright. The way it always got when she was trying to convince herself of something. Ethan was already at the table, hunched over a worn copy of Times The Swiss Family Robinson times one of Dad's approved texts. At 14, my brother had spent most of his conscious life underground. He barely remembered the surface at all, just fragments, he'd told me once. The color of grass, the sound of rain. He looked up as I sat down. Happy anniversary, Maya. You too. Dad says he has a surprise. A real one. Ethan's eyes were bright, with genuine excitement. He still believed. After everything, after a decade of canned food and recycled air and the same concrete walls, he still believed Dad hung the moon and stars. Maybe because he'd never actually seen them. Dad emerged from his office at exactly 7:30 a.m. He was a creature of routine, my father. Every day at 6 a.m., he rose for his perimeter check, climbing the ladder to the surface hatch and spending exactly 30 minutes up there, doing God knows what, making sure the world was still too dangerous for us. Then breakfast at 7:30, lessons from 8 to noon, exercise from 1 to 2, free time until dinner at 6. Lights out at 10. 10 years of the same schedule. 10 years of the same rhythm. David Chen was 52 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, with graying hair and eyes that could shift from warm to cold in a heartbeat. He'd been an engineer before the war, at least. That's what he told us. Built things, fixed things, understood how the world worked. He'd built this bunker with his own hands, preparing for a disaster everyone said would never come. Then it came, or so he said. Good morning, family. Dad took his seat at the head of the table with the gravity of a king ascending his throne. Today is a special day. Who can tell me why? 10 years since the bombs fell, Ethan answered immediately, eager as always. 10 years of survival. That's right, son. 10 years ago, on October 5th, 2014, the world as we knew it ended. Nuclear war. 14 major cities destroyed in the first wave. Infrastructure collapsed within 48 hours. By the end of the first month, 90% of the population was dead from radiation, starvation, or violence. I'd heard this speech 100 times. The words washed over me like water, familiar as scripture. But we survived, Dad continued. Because I prepared. Because I saw what was coming when everyone else was too blind, too comfortable, 2 times trusting times of a system designed to fail. His eyes moved around the table, resting on each of us in turn. Your mother, your sister, your brother. We're still here, still together, still a family. Mom set a plate in front of him. Her hands were shaking slightly. They always did when Dad talked about the war. And today, Dad said, his voice softening into something almost gentle, we celebrate. I've been saving something special. He reached under the table and produced a can. Not the usual dented, labelless containers we ate from daily, but something pristine. Something I hadn't seen in years. Peaches. Canned peaches, with a colorful label and a sell-by date of December 2014. Oh, David, Mom whispered. I've been saving it for today. For our 10th anniversary. Dad smiled. That warm smile that made you forget about his cold eyes, his rigid rules, his explosive temper. 10 years of keeping this family safe. I think that deserves something sweet. Ethan was practically bouncing in his seat. I managed to smile, playing along, being the good daughter I'd learned to be. But inside, something felt wrong, like a splinter I couldn't locate. Buried too deep to extract. After breakfast, we gathered in the living room area, a threadbare couch, and 2 chairs arranged around a battery-powered lantern Dad lit for special occasions. He called it the eternal flame, our reminder that light endures even in the darkest times. Maya. Dad's voice pulled me from my thoughts. You were 8 years old when we came down here. Do you remember what it was like? Before? Everyone looked at me. Mom's eyes held something I couldn't name. Warning? Fear? A little, I said carefully. I remember our house, the yard, school. What else? I closed my eyes, reaching for fragments that grew hazier every year. I remember the sky, how big it was. I remember the smell of rain, and I hesitated, and I remember being scared. The day we came down, you said the bad things were coming, and we had to hide. That's right. Dad nodded approvingly. The bad things came, but we were safe down here. We've always been safe. Thanks for watching. The Mormon stated, Thanks C. Thanks Alta C. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks Alta C. Thanks Alta C. Thanks for watching. Thanks Alta C. Why can't we ever go up? The words escaped before I could stop them. It's been 10 years. Isn't the radiation gone by now? The temperature in the room dropped. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Ethan stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Dad's smile didn't waver. But his eyes went cold. You know why, Maya? We've discussed this. The half-life of cesium-137 is 30 years. Strontium-90, 29 years. The surface won't be safe for decades. Maybe not in our lifetimes. The readings I take every morning confirm it. Radiation levels are still lethal above ground. His voice hardened. I know it's difficult. I know you want more than this. But this is survival. This is what I've sacrificed everything for. To keep you safe. To keep this family together. I'm sorry, I said automatically. I wasn't questioning. I was just curious. The cold receded. Dad's smile warmed again. Curiosity is natural, but trust is essential. Do you trust me, Maya? Yes, Dad. Good girl. He moved on, launching into his annual State of the Bunker address. Food inventory, water filtration status, generator maintenance. I nodded along, said the right things, asked no more questions. But but the splinter burrowed deeper. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. 10 years. I'd spent 10 years in this concrete tomb, and I could barely remember what trees looked like. Could barely recall the sensation of wind on my face. My childhood existed in fragments, a swing set, the taste of ice cream, the sound of my mother's laughter. Real laughter, not the hollow echo it had become, and something else. Something that nagged at the edges of my memory like a word on the tip of my tongue. A girl who looked like me, who laughed like me, who held my hand when we were scared. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to grasp the memory. But it slipped away, like smoke. Asterisk, you're tired, asterisk, I told myself. Asterisk, 10 years underground will do things to your mind. Dad explained it. Isolation can cause hallucinations, false memories. It's normal. Asterisk. But was it normal to dream of sunlight that felt too real? Was it normal to wake up reaching for a hand that wasn't there? Was it normal to feel, deep in my bones, that something in this bunker was very, very wrong? I turned on my side, facing the wall. The concrete was cold against my palm. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for answers. Not because I doubted Dad. Not because I was ungrateful, but because the girl in my memories had a name. I could almost hear it, echoing from somewhere deep inside. A name that started with L. The anniversary dinner was Dad's masterpiece of performance. He'd set up the table with a white sheet as a tablecloth, something he only did twice a year, on the anniversary and on Christmas. The battery-powered lantern cast a warm glow that almost made the bunker feel like a home instead of a tomb. The canned peaches sat in the center like a religious offering, still unopened, waiting for the climax of the evening. 10 years ago tonight, Dad began, his voice taking on the reverent tone he reserved for this story. I was at my desk at Morrison Engineering when the first reports came in. Phoenix, gone. San Diego, gone. Los Angeles, a city of 4 million people reduced to ash in less than a second. Mom sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap. Ethan leaned forward, enraptured. Even though he'd heard this story dozens of times, I picked at my reconstituted mashed potatoes and listened with new ears. The highways became parking lots within hours. People panicking, fighting for gas, for food, for survival. But I didn't panic. I'd prepared. I loaded your mother and you kids into the truck. And we drove, not toward the cities, like everyone else away from them. Into the mountains. To this bunker I'd spent 3 years building. He paused for effect, letting the weight of his foresight settle over us. The bombs kept falling for 3 days. Russia, China, North Korea, everyone launched everything they had. By the time the radiation clouds rolled across Montana, we were already sealed in. Safe. Together. What about everyone else? I asked. The question surprised me as much as it surprised everyone else at the table. Dad's eyes flickered. What do you mean? The other people? Our neighbors? My friends from school? What happened to them? Maya. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. A warning. They weren't prepared. Dad's tone remained steady, but I could see the muscles in his jaw tightening. They trusted the government to protect them. They believed the news anchors who said everything was fine. And when the bombs fell, they had nowhere to go. No supplies, no plan. So they all died? Most of them. Within the first month from radiation poisoning, the survivors. He shook his head slowly. The surface became a nightmare. Roving gangs, cannibalism, violence beyond anything you can imagine. The rules of civilization collapsed in less than a week. I nodded. But something about the story felt different tonight. Not the words themselves, those were always the same, but the way they fit together, like a puzzle where the pieces had been forced into the wrong places. What about Grandma and Grandpa? I asked. Did you try to save them? The temperature dropped. Mom made a small sound, almost a whimper. There wasn't time. Dad's voice was flat now. Dangerous. We had minutes to decide, Maya. Minutes. I could save my wife and children. Or I could waste time trying to reach people across the state who probably wouldn't have listened anyway. I chose my family. I chose times. You asterisk. I wasn't questioning. Every year you ask more questions. He leaned forward, and for a moment, I saw something behind his eyes, something cold and coiled, like a snake waiting to strike. Every year, you push a little harder, test the boundaries a little more. Why is that, Maya? David. Mom's hand reached across the table, touching his arm. It's the anniversary. Please. She's just curious. The snake receded. Dad exhaled slowly, and when he looked at me again, his eyes were warm, paternal, loving. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know it's hard to understand why things happened the way they did, but I need you to trust that I made the right choices, that everything I've done has been to protect this family. After dinner, I volunteered to clean up something I never did. Dad retreated to his office for his evening systems check, and Ethan disappeared into his room with a book. I waited until I heard Dad's office door close, then moved quietly toward the storage room. The bunker had 3 areas Dad kept off limits: his office, the locked storage closet behind the pantry, and the surface hatch. The storage room, technically, was open to everyone, but there was a section at the back, behind the stacked crates of freeze-dried food, that I'd never been allowed to explore. Asterisk. That's old equipment, Dad had said when I'd asked years ago. Broken things. Nothing interesting. Asterisk. Tonight, I needed to see for myself. The storage room smelled like dust and dried beans. I weaved between towers of canned goods, past the water filtration supplies and spare generator parts, until I reached the back corner. There, covered by a tarp, sat a stack of boxes I'd never opened. My heart pounded as I lifted the edge of the tarp. The first box contained old newspapers. I pulled one out, hands trembling, and held it up to my flashlight. Asterisk Montana Tribune. The 28th of September, 2014. Asterisk. The headline read, asterisk asterisk. Local fair draws record crowds. Despite rain, asterisk asterisk. Below it, normal stories, football scores, a recipe contest, a controversy about a new stoplight in town. No mention of nuclear war, no emergency warnings, no apocalypse. I checked the date again. The 28th of September, 2014. 1 week before, Dad said the bombs fell. My hands moved faster now, pulling out newspaper after newspaper. Asterisk the 1st of October 2014. School board approves. New budget. Asterisk, asterisk. The 2nd of October, 2014. Weather Service predicts. Early snow. Asterisk. Weather Service predicts. Asterisk the 3rd of October 2014. Community mourns. Loss of local asterisk. The page was torn. The rest of the article was gone. I dug deeper into the box, looking for more papers from October 3rd and beyond. But there were none. The collection stopped abruptly, as if someone had deliberately removed everything after that date. Why would Dad keep newspapers from times before times the war? And why did they all read so normal? My hand brushed against something else, a smaller box, tucked beneath the newspapers, wooden, with a brass latch. On its lid, in Dad's careful handwriting, were 3 words. Asterisk. Asterisk. Do not open. Asterisk. Asterisk. My fingers hovered over the latch. Maya? I nearly screamed. Mom stood at the entrance to the storage room, silhouetted by the dim light from the main area. Her face was hidden in shadow, but I could see her hands twisting together in that nervous way she had. What are you doing back here? I shoved the newspapers back, hiding the wooden box beneath them, looking for something to read. I've finished all my books. There are no books back here. Mom stepped closer. You know that. I thought maybe there were some old ones. From before. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, softly, some doors should stay closed. Maya, what does that mean? Mom glanced over her shoulder, checking that we were alone. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. Your father has worked very hard to keep us safe. He's sacrificed everything. Things you can't understand. Things I can barely understand myself. She reached out and touched my face, a rare gesture, her palm cool against my cheek. Please don't make things harder. For any of us. Mom. Those newspapers. I don't know what you think you found. Her voice hardened just slightly. But I do know that your father loves this family. Everything he's done for us. Sometimes love looks different than we expect. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. Sometimes it looks like difficult choices. She dropped her hand and stepped back. Go to bed, Maya. It's late. She left before I could respond, her footsteps fading into the quiet hum of the bunker. I didn't go to bed. Instead, I waited. 1 hour. 2. Until the bunker fell into the deep silence of the night cycle, when even the generator seemed to murmur softer. Then I crept back to the storage room. The wooden box was still there, nestled beneath the newspapers, like a secret waiting to be told. My fingers found the brass latch. Asterisk. Do not open. Asterisk. But Dad kept secrets. Dad lied about the newspapers. Dad had cold eyes and a warm smile, and I didn't know anymore which one was real. I opened the box. Inside, there were drawings. Children's drawings. On faded construction paper. Done in crayon and marker. The kind of drawings that hung on refrigerators and classroom walls. I picked up the first one. 2 stick figures holding hands, standing in front of a house with a yellow sun above. Both figures had long dark hair. Both wore matching dresses, one pink, one purple. At the bottom, in a child's careful handwriting, asterisk me and Maya. Best twins forever. Asterisk. And in the corner, a signature. Asterisk. Lily Chen, age 8. Asterisk. My vision blurred. The drawing trembled in my hands. Lily. The name I couldn't remember. The girl who looked like me. The empty space in my memories that I'd been trying to fill for years. I had a twin sister. Her name was Lily. And according to these drawings, she was with us. Part of this family. Part of times me asterisk. I rifled through the rest of the box with desperate hands. More drawings, dozens of them. 2 girls playing, 2 girls hugging, 2 girls with their parents, and a baby, Ethan. I realized. Every picture signed with the same name. Asterisk. Lily Chen. Lily Chen. Lily Chen. At the very bottom of the box, I found one last item. A photograph. 4 people stood in front of a house. I almost recognized our house from before. Mom and Dad, looking younger, happier, more alive than I'd ever seen them. And between them, holding hands, 2 identical girls. Same dark hair, same smile, same eyes. Me and Lily. I turned the photo over. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, the Chen family. Maya. Lily's 8th birthday, March 15th, 2014. I stared at the date until the numbers burned into my brain. 8 years old. March 2014. 7 months before we came to the bunker. 7 months before the world supposedly ended. Where was Lily now? And why had everyone pretended she never existed? I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with Lily's photograph hidden under my pillow. My mind racing in circles that led nowhere good. A twin sister. I had a twin sister. We were identical, same hair, same eyes, same smile. We'd celebrated our 8th birthday together just 7 months before the world supposedly ended. And then, nothing. She vanished from existence. No photos on the walls. No mention of her name. No second bed in my room. Asterisk. There used to be another bed. In here. Asterisk. The thought from yesterday morning crashed back into my consciousness. I hadn't imagined it. There, times had times been another bed. Lily's bed. And at some point, it had been removed. When? How had I not noticed? How had I times forgotten? Times my own twin. The answer, I realized, with growing horror, was that I hadn't forgotten. Not completely. She'd been there all along in my dreams, in my fragmented memories, in the empty space beside me that I'd never been able to name. Dad hadn't erased Lily from my mind, he'd just buried her. Deep enough that I stopped looking, but not deep enough that she stopped calling. The next morning, I moved through breakfast like a ghost. Dad talked about the day's lesson plan chemistry, focused on water purification. Ethan asked questions with his usual enthusiasm. Mom served food with her usual silence. I ate without tasting, nodded without hearing, all while my mind worked on a single problem. How do I find out what happened to Lily? I couldn't ask directly. Dad's reaction to my questions last night made that clear. One wrong word, and he'd lock down, or worse, lock times me times down. I'd seen what happened when people pushed him too far. The cold eyes, the tight jaw, the way Mom flinched when his voice rose. No. I needed proof. I needed to know what was real before I confronted anyone, and I knew exactly where to start. The ham radio had been broken since we arrived. Dad kept it in the corner of the main room, covered with a cloth, like a piece of furniture, rather than a communication device. He'd shown it to us once, years ago, explaining how it could pick up signals from hundreds of miles away if there was anyone left to send them. Asterisk, I tried for months after we sealed in. Asterisk, he'd told us. Asterisk, nothing but static. The electromagnetic pulse from the bombs fried most electronics on the surface. Anyone with a working radio is either dead or in hiding, and they're not going to broadcast their location to raiders. Asterisk. I'd never questioned it. Why would I? Dad was the engineer. Dad understood how things worked. If he said the radio was broken, it was broken. But Dad also said the world ended. And the newspapers told a different story. I waited 3 days. 3 days of perfect behavior, perfect compliance, perfect daughter performance. I helped Mom with cooking. I engaged enthusiastically in Dad's lessons. I played chess with Ethan and let him win. I asked no questions, raised no doubts, gave no indication that anything had changed. But every night, after lights out, I worked. The radio wasn't broken. I discovered that on the first night, when I removed the back panel and found the wires intact, the tubes undamaged, what I found instead was a disconnection, deliberate, careful, that prevented the device from receiving signals. Someone, Dad, obviously, had disabled it on purpose. Reconnecting the wires was simple enough. The real challenge was doing it silently, in the dark, with only a tiny penlight and the constant fear of discovery. On the third night, I finished. 2047. The bunker was tomb silent. Dad's snores echoed faintly from his bedroom, a sound I'd learned to track over years of midnight bathroom trips. Mom's breathing was shallow but steady. Ethan slept like the dead. As always, I crept to the radio, my bare feet silent on the concrete floor. The device was old, 1980s vintage, Dad had said. Built to survive nuclear war. Ironic, if you thought about it. I'd learned to operate it during one of Dad's emergency preparedness lessons, back when he still pretended it worked. I plugged in the headphones, slipped them over my ears, and turned the dial. Static. White noise. The empty hiss of dead air. My heart sank. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe the world really was. Asterisk forecast for the Montana region shows temperatures in the mid-40s with a chance of afternoon showers. Asterisk. I nearly gasped out loud. The voice was tinny, distant, but unmistakably real. A weather report. A current Times weather report, judging by the casual tone and specific details. My hands shook as I turned the dial further. Asterisk. Broncos defense struggled in the fourth quarter, allowing the Chiefs to asterisk. Sports. Professional football. Teams I remembered from before. Further. Asterisk President Mitchell's address to Congress focused on climate policy and infrastructure spending. Critics from both parties have raised concerns about asterisk President Mitchell. I didn't recognize the name, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that there was times a president. There was a Congress. There was a Times Country asterisk. Further, asterisk, and that's your classic rock hour here on K97. 5. Missoula's home for the hits. Coming up next, a double shot of Led Zeppelin asterisk. Music exploded through the headphones, guitar riffs and drum beats, and a voice I recognized from the dusty CDs Dad kept but never played. Led Zeppelin, Black Dog, a song from a world that was supposed to be dead. I sat there in the darkness, tears streaming down my face, listening to music from a radio station in Missoula, a city less than 100 miles away, a city that, according to Dad, had been reduced to radioactive rubble 10 years ago. The world wasn't dead. It had never been dead. Dad lied. He lied about times. Everything asterisk. I listened for 2 hours. News, weather, sports, music, commercials for car dealerships and pizza places, and a sale at the local furniture store. The mundane, beautiful sounds of a functioning civilization. I learned that the current president was someone named Patricia Mitchell, the first female president, elected in 2020. I learned that climate change was the big political issue, not nuclear fallout. I learned that there was going to be a craft fair in Helena next weekend, and that the high school football team had made the state playoffs. Normal. Everything was normal. Had been normal. For 10 years. 10 years of canned food and recycled air, and lessons about radiation poisoning and the collapse of society. 10 years of fear and isolation and absolute dependence on a man who had looked me in the eyes every single day and lied. Asterisk. Why? Asterisk. The question burned in my chest. What possible reason could justify this? What could make a father imprison his own family underground for a decade? The answer, I realized, had to be connected to Lily, the 3rd of October 2014. The torn newspaper. The drawings that stopped. The twin sister who vanished without explanation. Something happened that day. Something so terrible that Dad would rather fake the end of the world than face the consequences. And I was going to find out what. I put the radio back exactly as I'd found it, carefully disconnecting the wires I'd repaired. Not yet. I couldn't let Dad know I'd discovered his lie. Not until I had more information. Not until I understood the full picture. Not until I had a plan. But as I crept back to my room, past the door to Dad's office, past the hatch that led to a world I now knew was waiting for me, I made a promise. To myself. To the twin I'd forgotten. To the girl in the photographs who deserved to be remembered. Asterisk. I'm going to find the truth, Lily. I'm going to find out what happened to you. Asterisk. Asterisk. And then, I'm getting us out of here. Asterisk. I slid the photograph from under my pillow and looked at it one more time. 2 girls. Same face. Same smile. One of them was me. The other was a ghost. But ghosts don't just disappear. They leave traces. Evidence. Stories that refuse to stay buried. And Dad, for all his careful planning, had made one mistake. He'd kept the box. Tomorrow, I would find out why. The knowledge changed everything. For 3 more days, I walked through my underground life like an actress in a play I hadn't auditioned for. I smiled at Dad's jokes. I nodded during his lessons about surviving in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, lessons that were now grotesquely absurd. Like learning to swim in a desert. I helped Mom cook meals from canned ingredients while 100 miles away. People were ordering pizza and going to football games. But inside, I was mapping. Mapping Dad's routines. Mapping the bunker's weak points. Mapping my escape. Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad's schedule. Observed. Over 72 hours. Asterisk. Asterisk. 6 a.m. Wakes. Goes to surface. Hatch for radiation. Check. 30 minutes. 6:30 a.m. Returns. Showers. Prepares for day. 7:30 a.m. Breakfast. 8 a.m. 12 p.m. Lessons. 12 p.m. Lunch. 1 p.m. 2 p.m. Exercise hour. 2 p.m. 5 p.m. Projects. Usually in his locked offs. 6 p.m. Dinner. 7 p.m. 9 p.m. Family time. 9 p.m. Dad's second systems. Check-in office. 1 hour. 10 p.m. Lights out. 10:30 p.m. Dad's final perimeter check. Goes to surface hatch. 15 minutes. 11 p.m. Everyone. Asleep. Asterisk, asterisk. The key was in his office. Asterisk, asterisk. I'd watched him for years, never really timed seeing asterisk. But now every detail mattered. The key ring he kept on his belt during the day. The way he placed it on his nightstand when he slept. The soft jingle when he walked. There were 4 keys on that ring. 1. His office door. 2. The storage closet. 3. The surface hatch. 4. 1. I didn't recognize. Smaller. Older. The surface hatch was my target. But I couldn't just steal the key and run. Dad would wake, catch me before I got 10 feet. I needed a window, a moment when he was distracted, when I could get to the surface, and stay times there long enough to find help. The morning radiation check. Every day at 6 a.m., Dad climbed up to the surface and spent 30 minutes testing radiation levels. He always locked the hatch behind him, but the lock was on the times inside asterisk. If I could get up there while he was gone, hide somewhere on the surface, wait for him to come back down. No. Too risky. He'd notice the unlocked hatch. He'd search. I needed a different approach. The answer came to me on the 4th night. While I lay in bed listening to Dad's snores. I didn't need to escape times past times him. I needed to escape times before times him. His 10:30 p.m. perimeter check was the vulnerability. 15 minutes on the surface. Every night. Alone. If I could steal the key while he slept. Reach the hatch before his check. Get outside and run. But the hatch made noise. The ladder creaked. He'd hear me. Unless he wasn't in the bunker. Unless I timed it times during his check, when he was already on the surface. The plan crystallized. Wait for Dad to go up for his nightly check. While he's outside, climb the ladder. Open the hatch from inside. No key needed from this side. And slip out. He'd be somewhere on the property, probably near the fake radiation sensors he'd installed, and I could go the opposite direction. Into the forest. Toward the road. Toward civilization. Toward the truth. Asterisk. Asterisk. The 12th of October, 2024. 10:17 p.m. Asterisk. Asterisk. I lay in bed, fully clothed under the covers. Heart pounding so hard, I was sure Dad could hear it through the walls. The bunker was quiet. Mom had gone to bed early, citing a headache. Ethan was in his room, probably reading by flashlight like he did most nights. And Dad, footsteps. The familiar rhythm of his boots on concrete. I heard him pass my door, pause at the main room, then continue toward the hatch. The sound of the ladder extending. The metallic groan of the surface door opening. A gust of air, fresh air. Real air that I could almost taste from my bed. Then the door closed. And he was gone. Asterisk. 15 minutes. Asterisk. I counted to 60, giving him time to move away from the hatch. Then I slipped out of bed and crept into the hallway. The bunker was dark, just the dim glow of emergency lights that Dad kept on 24/7. I moved by memory, avoiding the squeaky board near Ethan's door, the stack of supply crates that jutted into the walkway. The hatch was at the end of the main room, behind a heavy curtain that Dad said protected us from residual radiation. I'd always thought that curtain was ominous, a reminder of the danger outside. Now, I knew it was just theater, a prop in Dad's elaborate production. I pulled it aside. The ladder stretched upward into darkness. At the top, barely visible, was the hatch circular door with a wheel lock, like something from a submarine. I'd only been through it once, on the day we arrived. I barely remembered what was on the other side. Asterisk. 12 minutes. Left. Asterisk. I climbed. The rungs were cold under my palms, each step echoing in the vertical shaft like a drum beat. Halfway up, I paused, listening. Nothing from below. Nothing from above. I kept climbing. The wheel lock was stiff from disuse, at least. From my disuse. Dad clearly opened it twice daily without issue. I gripped the cold metal and turned with all my strength. It didn't budge. Come on. Come on. Come on. I tried again, throwing my whole body into the effort. Something groaned, shifted, and then, with a screech that seemed impossibly loud in the silence, the wheel turned. I froze, waiting for footsteps, for Dad's voice, for the end of everything. Nothing. Asterisk. 8 minutes. Asterisk. I pushed the hatch open and climbed out into the world. The first breath nearly knocked me unconscious. Not because the air was toxic or irradiated, exactly the opposite. It was Times, clean, asterisk, fresh, alive with the smell of pine and earth, and something floral I couldn't identify. Cold air filled my lungs, so different from the recycled staleness I'd breathed for a decade that I almost choked on it. Above me, stars, not the pale imitations in my textbooks or Dad's stories, but real stars. Thousands of them, scattered across a sky so vast and dark that I felt myself tilting, falling upward into infinity. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of light, and I understood for the first time why ancient people had worshipped the heavens. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them away with shaking hands. Asterisk focus. 6 minutes. Asterisk. I was standing in a small clearing, surrounded by pine trees. The bunker entrance was disguised as a storage shed. Weathered wood, rusted hinges, the kind of structure you'd pass without a second glance. 20 feet away, an old cabin sat dark and silent. Dad's monitoring station. Probably. The place he disappeared to. Every morning, I could see a dirt road winding away from the clearing, disappearing into the forest. That was my path. Follow the road. Find help. Come back with the police. And a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Coming from the tree line. Coming times toward times me. Maya? Dad's voice was calm. Almost gentle. But I heard the edge beneath it. The razor wrapped in velvet. He emerged from the shadows like a nightmare taking form. Tall. Broad. His face half lit by the flashlight, turning his features into a mask of angles and shadows. What are you doing up here? I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Every escape plan, every careful preparation, collapsed into a single frozen moment of terror. I asked you a question. My voice cracked. I wanted to see, just once. I wanted to see the stars. He stared at me. The flashlight beam didn't waver. The stars. You risked exposure to lethal radiation. To see the stars. The lie sat between us like a corpse. We both knew the truth. We both knew what came next. But Dad surprised me. He lowered the flashlight, sighed. And when he spoke again, his voice was almost sad. I know you fixed the radio, Maya. I know you've been listening at night. I know about the newspapers, the box, the photographs. He took a step closer. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? My blood turned to ice. You're so much like her, he said softly. So curious, so stubborn, so determined to see what's behind the curtain. Who? The word escaped before I could stop it. Who are you talking about? Dad's face twisted into something I'd never seen before, grief and rage and something darker, all tangled together. You know who? He grabbed my arm. Now let's go back inside. We have a lot to discuss. The climb back down the ladder was the longest journey of my life. Dad's hand stayed clamped around my arm, his grip tight enough to bruise. He didn't speak, didn't explain, just guided me down rung by rung, his body a wall of heat and anger behind me. When we reached the bottom, the bunker felt different. Smaller. The walls pressed in like they were breathing, like the whole structure was alive and complicit in my captivity. Mom stood in the hallway, her face pale in the emergency lighting. David. What? Go back to bed, Sarah. But Maya. I said times go back to bed, asterisk. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. Mom flinched like she'd been slapped, her eyes meeting mine for just a moment long enough for me to see the fear, the guilt, the helpless apology, before she turned and disappeared into the darkness. She didn't look back. Dad pushed me into the storage room, the same room where I'd found the newspapers, the same room where I'd discovered Lily's drawings, her photographs, her erased existence. Now it would become my prison. I sat on a crate of freeze-dried vegetables, my legs shaking too badly to hold me up anyway. Dad stood in the doorway, backlit by the dim glow from the main room. His face was in shadow, but I could feel his eyes on me, measuring, calculating, deciding. You've been busy, he said finally. The radio, the storage room, the questions at dinner. He shook his head slowly. I thought I had more time. I thought you were still my obedient little girl. I'm not a little girl anymore. No, you're not. He stepped into the room, pulling the door partially closed behind him. You're 18 years old, an adult by any legal standard. Old enough to understand. Consequences. What consequences? For wanting to know the truth? The truth. He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the concrete walls. You think you want the truth, Maya, but the truth is a burden. The truth is something you can never unknow, never unfeel, never escape from. He crouched in front of me, bringing his face level with mine. Trust me, I've been carrying the truth for 10 years. It's heavier than you can imagine. Then tell me. My voice cracked, but I forced the words out. Tell me about Lily. The name hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Dad's face changed. The cold calculation gave way to something raw, pain, maybe, or rage. It was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. Where did you hear that name? I found the box, the drawings, the photographs. I met his eyes, refusing to look away even though every instinct screamed at me to submit, to apologize, to be the good daughter who never asked questions. I had a twin sister. Her name was Lily. And something happened to her. Something you've been hiding for 10 years. Maya, what happened to her, Dad? Where is she? Why don't I remember her? Because I made you forget. The roar filled the tiny room, bouncing off walls, hammering into my skull. Dad's hand slammed against a shelf, sending cans clattering to the floor. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck, his whole body trembling with barely contained violence. I'd never seen him like this. Never. But somewhere, deep in the recesses of memory, I had times seen him like this. A flash, just a fragment of a man with these same eyes, this same rage, towering over a small girl who looked exactly like me. Asterisk Lily. He's angry at Lily. Asterisk. The memory vanished as quickly as it appeared, but it left something behind. A cold certainty that settled in my stomach like a stone. What did you do to her? Dad's breathing was ragged. He stared at me, his chest heaving, his fists clenched at his sides. For a long moment, I thought he might hit me, thought he might finally become the monster I'd always sensed lurking beneath the surface. Then, something shifted. The rage drained away. replaced by exhaustion so profound it seemed to age him 20 years in seconds. You want to know what happened to Lily? His voice was quiet now. Defeated. Fine. But not tonight. Tonight, you're going to stay in here and think about what you've done. Think about the position you've put this family in. Think about what happens when people start digging into things that should stay buried. He moved toward the door. Dad, wait. Tomorrow, Maya. We'll talk tomorrow. He paused at the threshold, not turning around. And Maya, if you try to escape again, if you try to contact anyone, if you do, times anything, times to jeopardize this family. He looked over his shoulder, and his eyes were cold again. Empty. The eyes of a stranger. You'll end up just like her. The door closed. The lock clicked, and I was alone in the darkness with my sister's ghost. Hours passed. Maybe. Time moved differently in the storage room. No clock, no windows, no way to track the minutes except by counting heartbeats, and my heart was beating so fast that the numbers became meaningless. I sat in the dark, surrounded by crates and boxes and the detritus of a decade underground, and I tried to piece together what I knew. Asterisk, Lily was real. My twin sister. We were 8 years old. Asterisk. Asterisk. Something happened on the 3rd of October 2014. The newspaper article was torn off. Asterisk. Asterisk. 2 days later, we were in the bunker. Lily was gone. I was told to forget. Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad said she got in trouble because she was curious. Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad said I'd end up just like her if I kept pushing. Asterisk. The implications were horrifying. I didn't want to believe them. Couldn't accept that my father, the man who'd taught me to read, who'd bandaged my scraped knees, who'd told me bedtime stories about a world that would someday be safe again, could be capable of what? Asterisk. Say it. Think the words. Asterisk. Of killing his own daughter. The thought made me physically ill. I bent over, dry heaving, my body rejecting the possibility, even as my mind circled closer to accepting it. But there was another option. One I desperately wanted to believe. Maybe Lily wasn't dead. Maybe she was just gone, taken somewhere, given away, hidden like the photographs and the drawings and the newspapers. Maybe she was still alive, somewhere on the surface, waiting for someone to find her, waiting for me. I must have slept eventually, because I woke to the sound of the lock clicking. Light flooded in, not the dim emergency glow, but the full fluorescent blaze of the bunker's main system. Morning, then. Or whatever passed for morning in this concrete coffin. Mom stood in the doorway. Her face was drawn, pale, her eyes red-rimmed from crying, or sleeplessness, or both. She held a tray with a bowl of oatmeal and a glass of water, prison food. I thought bitterly. Maya. Her voice was barely a whisper. I brought you breakfast. Where's Dad? On the surface. His morning check. She set the tray on a crate and hovered by the door, unable to meet my eyes. He said, you're to stay in here until he decides, until he figures out what to do. What to do about what? About me knowing the truth? Mom flinched. You do know, don't you? I stood, my legs stiff from sleeping on concrete. You know about Lily. You know about the lie. You've known this whole time. Maya, please. Is she dead, Mom? Did Dad kill her? Is that what happened? Stop it. Tell me the truth. For once in your life, tell me the truth. Mom's composure shattered. Her face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks, her whole body folding in on itself like a building collapsing from within. I can't, she sobbed. Don't make you what? Admit what you let happen? Admit that you've been lying to me for 10 years? You don't understand. She looked up at me, and her eyes were wild, desperate. You don't know what he's capable of, what he'll do if anyone, footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, Dad was coming back. Mom's expression snapped from grief to terror in an instant. She grabbed my hands, her grip painfully tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry for everything. But please, Maya, don't push him. Don't make him angry. I can't lose another daughter." She released me and fled, disappearing down the hallway just as Dad's shadow fell across the doorway. He looked at me. I looked at him. Neither of us spoke, but something had changed in the silence. Mom's confession, her fear, her guilt, her whispered apology had confirmed what I already knew. Lily was dead, and Dad was the reason. Dad didn't speak to me for 2 days. He brought meals, slid trays through a crack in the door, like I was a prisoner in solitary confinement. Which, I suppose, I was. He checked on me twice daily, standing in the doorway without saying a word, his eyes scanning the room like he was inventorying the contents, making sure I hadn't found anything else, making sure I hadn't escaped. But where would I go? The hatch was locked. The bunker was sealed. And even if I somehow made it to the surface, Dad knew every inch of this property. He'd catch me before I reached the tree line. So I waited. I thought. I remembered. And slowly, piece by piece, Lily came back to me. The memories returned in fragments, shattered glass reassembling itself into a window. Asterisk. 2 girls in matching Halloween costumes, holding plastic pumpkin buckets. Asterisk. Asterisk. 2 girls blowing out candles on a birthday cake shaped like a butterfly. Asterisk. Asterisk. 2 girls, whispering secrets under blankets. A flashlight casting shadows on the fabric. Asterisk. Asterisk. 2 girls, holding hands in the back seat of a car, watching the world blur past the window. Asterisk. Lily had been my other half. My mirror. The person who understood me better than anyone, because she times was times me, in all the ways that mattered, and I had forgotten her. Not naturally, not the way childhood memories fade with time. I had been times made times to forget. Dad had taken her from my mind the same way he'd taken the photographs from the walls, the bed from my room, the evidence of her existence from everywhere except that forbidden box. How? Trauma. Probably. The human mind protects itself from things too painful to bear, and whatever happened on the 3rd of October 2014 had been painful enough that 8-year-old Maya had simply shut down, locked the memories away. Let Dad rewrite history, because the alternative was unbearable. But I wasn't 8 anymore, and the memories were coming back whether I wanted them to or not. On the 3rd day, Mom came. It was late past midnight, based on my internal clock. The bunker was silent, except for the eternal hum of the air recyclers. I was lying on my makeshift bed of supply crates when I heard the lock click. The door opened slowly. Quietly. Mom slipped inside like a ghost, closing the door behind her with exaggerated care. In her hands was a flashlight. Its beam pointed at the floor to avoid detection. Maya. Her whisper was barely audible. "Are you awake?" "I'm awake." She crossed the room and knelt beside me. Her face haunted in the dim light. She looked older than her 48 years older than I'd ever seen her. The weight of a decade of lies had carved itself into her features. "I don't have much time," she said. "Your father thinks I'm in the bathroom. If he wakes up and finds me here, he'll what? Lock you up too?" Mom flinched but didn't argue. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago." She took a shaky breath. "About Lily. About what really happened." My heart stopped. "I'm listening." "You were 8 years old," Mom began. "Both of you. So bright. So full of life. Lily was. She was the brave one. The one who talked back. Who pushed boundaries. Who never let anyone tell her what to do." A sad smile flickered across her face. "You were more careful. More observant. You watched before you acted. But Lily just times did asterisk. She charged through life like it was an adventure waiting to happen." "I remember," I whispered. And I did. Suddenly. Lily climbing trees I was afraid to climb. Lily standing up to bullies twice her size. Lily laughing at rules she thought were stupid. Your father loved that about her. At first, Mom's voice darkened. But he couldn't control her. And your father needs control. It's how he makes sense of the world. Everything has to be orderly. Predictable. Asterisk. His time's way. What happened, Mom? She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. October 3rd, 2014. It was a Friday. Your father had been drinking. He'd lost a big contract at work. And he was volatile. We'd learned to stay out of his way when he got like that. But Lily, Mom closed her eyes. Lily found his gun. The words hit me like a physical blow. He kept it in the closet. Hidden, he thought. But Lily was always curious, always exploring, always finding things she wasn't supposed to find. Mom's hands were shaking. She took it out, just to look. She didn't know. It was loaded. She didn't know anything about guns. She was ×8. Asterisk. Mom, your father found her with it. In the upstairs hallway. She was just holding it, looking at it, trying to figure out how it worked. Tears streamed down Mom's face. He screamed at her, grabbed for the gun. And Lily got scared. She tried to run. Oh God, the stairs. Mom's voice cracked. She was running toward the stairs, and he grabbed her arm, and she pulled away, lost her balance. I saw it then. Not a memory, more like a vision. A small girl with my face, tumbling backward down a flight of stairs. The crack of bone, the silence that followed. She broke her neck. Mom whispered. Died instantly. At least that's what the doctors would have said. If we'd called anyone, why didn't you call? The question came out harsh, accusatory. Why didn't you call? 911. Call the police? Call times anyone? Asterisk? Because your father, Mom's voice broke into a sob. Because he said it would look like murder. He said they'd take him away. Take you times away from me. He said our family would be destroyed, that you and Ethan would end up in foster care, that everyone would find out and our lives would be over. So he convinced me it was an accident, that Lily's death was tragic but unintentional, that calling the authorities would only make things worse, wouldn't bring her back, would only add more pain to an already devastating situation. Mom gripped my hands. I was in shock, Maya. I'd just watched my daughter die. I wasn't thinking clearly. And David was so calm, so certain he had a plan. And I was too broken to question it. What plan? Mom's face twisted with self-loathing. He buried Lily that night, in the woods behind the property. Then he told you, and told both of us, that she'd gone to heaven, that the angels had taken her because she was too special for this world. I don't remember that. You were traumatized. You stopped speaking for almost a week, and when you finally started talking again, you didn't mention Lily. It was like your mind had simply erased her. Mom wiped her eyes. Your father said it was a blessing, said it meant you could heal without the burden of grief. He removed her photos, her belongings, her bed. He told me that the kindest thing we could do was let you forget. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. Her voice was barely audible. I wanted to believe that something good could come from something so horrible, that my remaining children could have a chance at a normal life. A normal life? Mom, we've spent 10 years in a bunker. I know. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I know, Maya. 2 days after Lily died, David came to me with the bunker plan. He said the police were investigating, that someone had reported seeing us bury something in the woods. He said they would find Lily, that they would arrest him, that our family would be torn apart. Was any of that true? I don't know anymore. I don't know what's true and what's lies. All I know is that David said we had to disappear, and the bunker was ready, and I was too scared, and too guilty, and 2 times broken times to argue. She looked at me with devastated eyes. So I let him take us underground. I let him tell you the world had ended. I let him erase your sister from existence. And I've been living with that choice every single day for 10 years. I didn't know what to feel. Rage at my father for what he'd done, for killing my sister, for burying her, for locking us away from the world. Rage at my mother for enabling it, for going along with the lies, for watching me grow up without my twin, for never finding the courage to tell me the truth. Grief for Lily, for the sister I'd lost twice, first to death, and then to deliberate forgetting. And underneath it all, a cold, clear realization: I had to get out. I had to expose the truth. I had to make sure Lily's death wasn't buried forever in an unmarked grave in the Montana wilderness. Mom. I gripped her hands, forcing her to look at me. We have to leave. We have to go to the police. We can't. We times have times too. Dad killed Lily. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it wasn't. But he covered it up. He buried her like she was nothing. And then he imprisoned us for a decade to hide what he did. You don't understand. Mom's voice was hollow. If we go to the police, they'll arrest him. They'll arrest Times, me asterisk. I helped cover it up. I'm complicit in everything. Then you'll face the consequences. We both will. But at least we'll be free. At least Lily will get justice. Mom stared at me for a long moment. And then, slowly, something shifted in her eyes. The fear didn't disappear, but something else joined it. Something I hadn't seen in her face for years. Hope. He keeps the key on his nightstand, she whispered. When he's asleep. If you can get it without waking him. I can. I will. Mom nodded slowly. Then she leaned forward and hugged me. Really hugged me. For the first time in years. I'm sorry, she whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry, Maya. I failed you. I failed Lily. But I won't fail you again. Then help me, Mom. Help me get us out of here. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Tomorrow night. Your father takes a sleeping pill every Sunday. He doesn't think I know. But I've seen the bottle. He'll be unconscious by 11 p.m. That's when we move. What about Ethan? Mom's face fell. He won't believe us. Not without proof. He thinks your father is a hero. Then we get proof first. And we take him with us whether he believes or not. Mom left as quietly as she'd come, slipping back into the darkness of the bunker. I lay on my makeshift bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours. After 10 years, we were finally going to escape. But first, I needed to find the proof that would convince Ethan and the rest of the world what kind of monster David Chen really was. And I knew exactly where to look. Dad released me the next morning. He stood in the doorway of the storage room, his face unreadable, and gestured for me to come out. No apology, no explanation, just a silent command that I was too smart to disobey. Breakfast is ready, he said. Your mother made pancakes. Pancakes. Like we were a normal family having a normal Sunday morning. Like I hadn't just spent 3 days locked in a concrete cell. Like my twin sister wasn't buried somewhere in the woods above our heads. I walked past him without a word. The bunker felt different now. Not physically the same concrete walls, the same humming lights, the same recycled air. But I saw it with new eyes. Every corner held a lie. Every surface was stained with secrets. The family photos on the wall, carefully curated to show only 4 people, were monuments to erasure. Mom stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with mechanical precision. She didn't look at me, but I caught the slight tremor in her hands, the subtle tension in her shoulders. Asterisk. Tonight, asterisk. Her body language said. Asterisk. Just get through today. Asterisk. Ethan sat at the table, oblivious, reading one of Dad's survival manuals. He looked up when I entered and gave me a hesitant smile. Hey Maya, you okay? Fine. Dad said you were sick, some kind of stress reaction. He frowned. You should eat more. You look pale. Asterisk. Sick. Asterisk. That was how Dad explained my 3-day imprisonment. A stress reaction. Like I'd had a breakdown, instead of uncovering a decade of lies. I sat down across from my brother and studied his face. Really studied it. He had Mom's eyes, Dad's jawline, and somewhere in his features, traces of a sister he'd never known. Ethan was 4 when we came to the bunker. He had no memories of the surface, no memories of Lily, no reason to doubt the apocalyptic narrative that had shaped his entire existence. To him, Dad was a hero, the man who saved us from nuclear annihilation. How was I supposed to tell him the truth? After breakfast, Dad retreated to his office for his usual Sunday systems maintenance. Mom busied herself with laundry, another performance of normalcy. Ethan returned to his book, and I went looking for proof. Mom had told me that Dad kept everything important in his office, a room I'd been forbidden to enter for as long as I could remember. The door was always locked. The key was always on Dad's belt or his nightstand. Whatever secrets lay inside were guarded as carefully as the hatch to the surface. But I knew something now that I hadn't known before. Dad's office had a ventilation grate. I'd noticed it years ago, a small metal cover in the ceiling of the main room, directly above the bookshelf. The ductwork connected to every room in the bunker, including the one place I wasn't supposed to go. Was it big enough for me to fit through? Probably not. Was I going to try anyway? Absolutely. I waited until the bunker settled into its afternoon rhythm. Dad emerged from his office around 2 p.m., announcing he was going to do inventory in the storage room. Perfect. That gave me at least an hour while he was occupied. I grabbed a chair from the dining area and positioned it beneath the ventilation grate. The screws were old, rusted in place from years of humidity. I worked at them with a butter knife, my heart pounding with every tiny screech of metal. 1 screw. 2. 3. 4. The grate came free. The duct was narrow, much narrower than I'd hoped. But I was small, thin from years of rationed food. If I turned sideways and held my breath, I pulled myself up into the darkness. The ventilation shaft was claustrophobic in a way the bunker had never been. Metal pressed against my shoulders. My breath echoed back at me, hot and close. Every movement produced sounds that seemed impossibly loud, scrapes and thumps that I was certain would bring Dad running. But I kept moving, inch by inch, following the layout of the bunker in my mind. Main room. Hallway. Ethan's bedroom. Mom and Dad's bedroom. Dad's office. The grate above his private sanctuary was identical to the one I'd removed. 4 screws. Same rust. Same resistance. I worked at them from the inside. Sweat dripping down my face. Fingers aching from the awkward angle. Finally, the grate fell free. I lowered myself through the opening and dropped to the floor of my father's forbidden room. Dad's office was smaller than I'd imagined. A desk dominated the center, covered with notebooks and papers and a laptop computer that looked ancient but functional. Filing cabinets lined one wall. Shelves held books I'd never seen in the main library titles about criminal psychology, forensic investigation, evidence disposal, asterisk. Evidence, disposal, asterisk, asterisk. My stomach turned, but it was the far wall that caught my attention. Photographs. Dozens of them. Not family photos, something else entirely. Newspaper clippings, printed articles, handwritten notes, all connected by strings of red yarn, like something from a detective movie. I stepped closer, and my blood ran cold. The articles were about us. Asterisk. Montana. Family vanishes. Police. Baffled by disappearance. Asterisk. Asterisk. Search. Continues for Chen family. No leads. After 2 weeks. Asterisk. Asterisk. Foul play. Suspected in family's disappearance. Asterisk. Asterisk case. Goes cold. Chen family. Officially listed as missing. Asterisk. The dates ranged from October 2014 to early 2015. Article after article, documenting the search for us, for me, Mom, Ethan, and Dad. Photos of our house, interviews with neighbors, statements from police promising to never give up. We hadn't just disappeared into a bunker. We had become a missing persons case. People had looked for us, had worried about us, had wondered what happened to the Chen family who vanished without a trace one October weekend. And underneath the articles about our disappearance was another set of clippings. About Lily, asterisk, 8-year-old girl's remains, discovered in Montana, wilderness, asterisk. The headline hit me like a physical blow. The article was dated March 2016, 18 months after we entered the bunker. Asterisk hikers discovered the skeletal remains of a child approximately 8 to 10 years old in a remote section of the Flathead National Forest on Saturday. Medical examiners confirmed the remains belonged to a female child who died approximately 18 months prior. Cause of death appears to be blunt force trauma to the skull, consistent with a fall. Asterisk. Authorities have not yet identified the victim, but are investigating possible connections to several missing persons cases in the region, including the disappearance of the Chen family in October 2014. The Chens, David, 42, Sarah, 38, and their children, Maya, 8, Lily, 8, and Ethan, 4, vanished from their home without explanation and have never been found. Asterisk. Asterisk. Anyone with information is urged to contact asterisk. The article was torn at the bottom. No contact information. No follow-up stories. But there was one more clipping, dated a week later. Asterisk. Remains identified as Lily Chen. Family. Still missing. Asterisk. They'd found her. They'd found Lily, identified her, and presumably realized that her death was connected to our family's disappearance. And we had been 20 feet underground. Completely oblivious, I sank into Dad's chair. Overwhelmed. He'd known. He'd known they found Lily. He'd known the police were investigating. He'd kept those articles, tracked the case, monitored how close they came to discovering the truth. That's why we'd stayed in the bunker for 10 years. Not because of radiation, not because of nuclear war, because Dad was hiding from a murder investigation, and he dragged all of us into hiding with him. I rifled through the desk drawers, looking for more evidence. Notebooks filled with Dad's handwriting, obsessive lists, contingency plans, notes about maintaining the narrative, a folder labeled Sarah containing what looked like psychological profiles and manipulation techniques, another folder labeled Maya with notes about my behavior, my questions, my risk level. He'd been studying us, managing us, treating us like subjects in an experiment rather than family members. And then I found the photographs, not newspaper clippings, actual photographs, printed on regular paper, clearly taken from a digital camera. Lily's grave, a mound of dirt in a forest clearing, a small wooden cross, handmade, with no name, autumn leaves scattered across the earth, and another photo, taken years later, the same clearing, but different. The cross was gone. The mound had settled. Nature had reclaimed the spot, hiding any evidence that a child was buried there. Dad had documented everything, had visited the grave, had watched it disappear into the wilderness. My hands shook as I turned to the last photo in the stack. It showed 2 girls standing in front of a mirror, their reflections perfectly symmetrical. Same dress, same smile, same everything. Me and Lily. Twins. Whole. On the back. In Dad's handwriting, asterisk. The last photo, March 2014. Before everything changed. Asterisk. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Panic surged through me. I shoved the photos into my waistband, scrambled onto the desk, and pulled myself back into the ventilation shaft just as the office door opened. Could have sworn I heard something. Dad's voice drifted up. I held my breath. Probably the air system, Mom replied. You know how it rattles sometimes. A long pause. I could imagine Dad scanning the room, looking for anything out of place. Yeah, he said finally. The door closed. I didn't move for 5 full minutes. When I finally emerged from the ventilation shaft, my mind was racing. I had proof now. Real proof. The newspaper articles, the photos, Dad's obsessive documentation of a crime he'd committed and covered up. But I also had questions. Mom said Lily's death was an accident, a fall down the stairs during a confrontation about the gun. But the articles mentioned blunt force trauma to the skull. Was it really an accident? Or had Dad's story been another lie? Even to Mom, I didn't have time to puzzle it out. Tonight was the night. Dad would take his sleeping pill, fall unconscious, and we would finally escape this concrete prison. And when we reached the surface, when we reached civilization, I would make sure the world knew exactly what David Chen had done. To Lily. To Mom. To Ethan. To me. The memories came that night like a dam breaking. I lay in my bed, my real bed. Not the storage room floor with the stolen photographs hidden under my mattress, and Lily's face burned into my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Every time I opened them, I felt her absence. And then, somewhere between waking and dreaming, the past reached up and pulled me under. Asterisk, asterisk, October 3rd, 2014. 6:47 p.m. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk Maya. Come, look at this. Asterisk. Asterisk Lily's voice echoed down the hallway, excited and conspiratorial. That was her default state, always discovering something, always pulling me into adventures I was too cautious to start on my own. Asterisk. Asterisk, I found her in Mom and Dad's bedroom, standing in front of the open closet. She was holding something heavy, something black, something that made my stomach flip even though I didn't fully understand why. Asterisk. Asterisk. What is that? Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad's gun. Lily turned it over in her hands, examining it like a puzzle. I've seen it in movies. You pull this part back, and then asterisk, asterisk. Put it back. I grabbed her arm. Lily, you're going to get in trouble. Asterisk. Asterisk, I just want to look at it. I'm not going to shoot anything. She rolled her eyes, that classic Lily move that said, I was being a baby, being boring, being everything she wasn't. Don't you want to know how it works? Asterisk. Asterisk. No. I want you to put it back before Dad. Asterisk. Asterisk. Footsteps. On the stairs. Asterisk. Asterisk heavy. Fast. Angry. Asterisk. Asterisk. We both froze. Asterisk. 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 October 3rd, 2014. 6:52 p.m. Asterisk. 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 Dad appeared in the doorway, and I knew immediately that something was wrong. Asterisk. Asterisk. His face was red. His eyes were glassy, the way they got when he drank the brown liquid from the bottles in the cabinet. His whole body seemed to vibrate with a fury I'd never seen before. Not directed at us, not like this. Asterisk. Asterisk. What the hell are you doing? Asterisk. Asterisk. Lily's bravery crumbled. She was 8 years old, holding a weapon she didn't understand, facing a father who had transformed into something terrifying. Asterisk. Asterisk. I found it. I didn't mean. Asterisk. Asterisk, give me that. Dad lunged forward, grabbing for the gun. Asterisk. Asterisk. Lily screamed and pulled back instinctively, the reaction of any child facing an enraged adult. The gun clattered to the floor between them. Asterisk. Asterisk. Stupid girl. Do you know what could have happened? Do you have any idea? Asterisk. Asterisk. He grabbed her arm. Hard. Hard enough to leave bruises. I would realize later. Hard enough to make her cry out in pain. Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad, stop. I tried to intervene, tried to pull his hand away. She didn't mean to. She was just curious. Asterisk. Asterisk. He shoved me aside like I weighed nothing. I hit the dresser, pain blooming in my shoulder, but I barely noticed. All I could see was Lily, my other half, my mirror, my best friend struggling in our father's grip with tears streaming down her face. Asterisk. You never listen! Dad was screaming now, spittle flying from his lips. I tell you to stay out of my things, and you don't listen, just like your mother. Nobody in this family listens. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm sorry, Lily wailed. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry. Asterisk. Sorry isn't good enough. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Asterisk. Asterisk. He started dragging her toward the door, toward the hallway, toward the stairs. Asterisk. 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 October 3rd, 2014, 6:55 p.m. Asterisk. Asterisk. David, stop. Asterisk. Mom appeared from nowhere, her face white with terror. She grabbed Dad's other arm, trying to break his grip on Lily. Asterisk. Asterisk. Let her go! You're hurting her! Asterisk. Asterisk. Stay out of this. Sarah. Asterisk. Asterisk. She's a child. She made a mistake. You can't asterisk. Asterisk. Dad released Lily so suddenly that she stumbled backward. Asterisk. Asterisk. Toward the stairs. Asterisk. Asterisk. I saw it happen in slow motion. Her foot missing the top step. Her arms pinwheeling, reaching for something to grab. Her eyes, those eyes that were exactly like mine, going wide with surprise and fear. Asterisk. Asterisk. And then, she was falling. Asterisk. Tuon. Asterisk. Asterisk. Tumbling. Asterisk. Asterisk. The sounds were wrong, soft and hard at the same time. Thumps and cracks that I would hear in my nightmares for years to come, even when I couldn't remember why. Asterisk. Asterisk. She landed at the bottom, crumpled, and still. And I knew, even at 8 years old, I knew that something was broken beyond repair. Asterisk. Asterisk. Mom screamed. Asterisk. Asterisk. I screamed. Asterisk. Asterisk. Dad stood at the top of the stairs, frozen, staring at what he had done. Asterisk. Asterisk. And then Lily's eyes, still open, found mine. Asterisk. Asterisk. She didn't speak, couldn't speak, but I felt it anyway. Felt her reaching for me across the distance. Felt the bond that had connected us since before we were born. Stretching, thinning, breaking. Asterisk. Asterisk. And then it was gone. Asterisk. Asterisk. And so was she. Asterisk. I woke up gasping. The bunker was dark. Silent. My face was wet with tears I didn't remember crying. The memory suppressed for a decade, locked away by trauma and time and deliberate erasure, was fully restored now. I could see every detail, hear every sound, feel every emotion. My sister had died because my father couldn't control his rage. Not an accident. Not really. An accident implies something unavoidable, something no one could have prevented. But Dad could have stopped, could have let go, could have been a father instead of a monster. He chose not to, and Lily paid the price. Asterisk, asterisk, October 3rd, 2014, 7:30 p.m. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. We can't call anyone. Asterisk, asterisk. Dad's voice was flat, mechanical. He paced the living room while Mom sat on the couch, rocking back and forth, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her body together. Asterisk, asterisk. I sat in the corner, invisible, forgotten, staring at the stairs, staring at the spot where they'd taken Lily's body, staring at the blood that someone, Mom, Dad, had tried to clean but hadn't fully removed. Asterisk. Asterisk. David. We have to call someone. Asterisk. Asterisk. And tell them what? Dad stopped pacing. That? I pushed our daughter down the stairs? That? I killed her? Asterisk. Asterisk. It was an accident. Asterisk. Asterisk. You think they'll believe that? You think anyone will believe that? His voice rose. They'll call it murder, Sarah. They'll take me away. They'll take the kids away from you. Is that what you want? Asterisk. Asterisk. Mom's sobbing intensified. Asterisk. Asterisk. We have to think clearly. Dad resumed pacing. We have to be smart about this. Lily is gone, we can't change that. But we can protect what's left. We can protect Maya, Ethan, this family. Asterisk. How? Asterisk. I have a plan. He stopped in front of her, crouching down to meet her eyes. The bunker. It's ready. It's been ready for months. We go down there, all of us, and we wait. Let things blow over. Let people stop looking. Asterisk. Asterisk. People will look. David. When Lily doesn't show up at school. When we don't show up, asterisk. Asterisk. Let them look. They won't find us. The bunker is invisible. Off the grid. We have enough supplies for years. His voice softened, turned gentle. I know it sounds extreme, but it's the only way to keep this family together. The only way to survive. Asterisk. Asterisk. What about Lily? We can't leave her, asterisk. Asterisk, I'll take care of it. Dad's face hardened. Tonight, before anyone notices. And then we disappear. Asterisk. Asterisk. He turned and looked at me the first time. He'd acknowledged my presence since Lily fell. Asterisk. Asterisk, Maya understands, he said. Asterisk, I didn't understand. Not really. But I was 8 years old and my sister was dead, and my father's eyes promised something terrible if I disagreed. Asterisk. Asterisk. So I nodded. Asterisk. Good girl. Dad crossed to me, knelt down, took my hands. Listen to me, Maya. Your sister went to heaven. The angels took her because she was too special for this world. That's what happened. That's what you're going to remember. Okay? Asterisk. But asterisk. That's what? You're going to remember. His grip tightened on my hands. Lily is gone. She's with the angels now, and we're going to be safe underground. Away from the bad people who want to hurt our family. Do you understand? Asterisk. Asterisk. I stared into my father's eyes, the eyes of a man who had killed my twin, and was now asking me to forget it ever happened. Asterisk. Yes, Daddy. Asterisk. Good girl. Asterisk. Asterisk. He kissed my forehead. Asterisk. Asterisk. And I began to forget. Asterisk. 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 Present day. The 16th of October 2024. 3:17 a.m. Asterisk. Asterisk. The full memory left me shattered. I had been there. I had seen everything. And my father had literally programmed me to forget trauma, used my trauma, my age, my desperate need to feel safe to rewrite my own history. For 10 years, the truth had been locked inside my mind. And now that it was free, I felt its weight crushing me. But beneath the grief, beneath the horror, something else burned. Anger. Dad hadn't just killed Lily. He'd killed my memory of her. He'd stolen my sister twice, first from the world, then from my mind. He'd turned me into an accomplice to his cover-up without my knowledge or consent. And Mom had let him. Asterisk. I can't lose another daughter. Asterisk. Her words from the storage room took on new meaning now. She hadn't just failed to protect Lily. She'd failed to protect me times from the lies, from the manipulation, from a father who would rather imprison his family than face the consequences of his actions. Tonight, we would escape, but escape was just the beginning. Justice for Lily, for the decades stolen from all of us, for the truth that had been buried in a Montana forest for 10 years was what I really wanted, and I would have it, no matter what it cost. Asterisk, asterisk. The 16th of October, 2024, 8:30 p.m. Asterisk, asterisk. The bunker hummed with its usual evening routine. Dad sat in his chair, reading a survival manual he'd probably memorized years ago. Mom washed dishes with slow, mechanical movements. Ethan worked on a puzzle at the table, a 1,000-piece image of a mountain landscape he'd never seen in real life. And I watched, waited, counted the minutes until everything changed. At 9 p.m., Dad announced he was going to bed early. "Headache," he said, rubbing his temples. "I'm going to take something and turn in." Mom nodded without looking up. "I'll be there soon." Asterisk. The sleeping pill. Asterisk. Mom had been right. Sunday night, like clockwork, I caught her eye as Dad disappeared into the bedroom. A tiny nod, barely perceptible. The plan was still on. 2 hours. We had 2 hours until he was unconscious, which gave me 2 hours to do the hardest thing I'd ever have to do. Tell Ethan the truth. I found him in his room, lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling with the blank expression of someone who'd run out of things to think about. "Hey." I closed the door behind me. "Can we talk?" Ethan sat up, his face shifting from bored to curious. "Sure. What's up?" I sat on the edge of his bed, trying to figure out where to start. "How do you tell your 14-year-old brother that everything he believes is a lie? That the father he worships is a killer? That the world he thinks is dead is actually thriving without us?" "Ethan, I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen. Really listen before you say anything." His curiosity turned to wariness. "Okay." I took a deep breath, and I told him everything. The radio, the newspapers, the photographs, Lily. I laid it all out, the evidence, the memories, the horrible truth about October 3rd, 2014. I showed him the photographs I'd stolen from Dad's office. I repeated Mom's confession, word for word. And I watched my brother's face transform, from confusion to disbelief to denial to something that looked like physical pain. "No." Ethan shook his head, backing away from me on the bed. "No. You're lying. This is some kind of test. Dad's testing us, seeing if we're loyal." "Ethan, the world ended. There was a war. Dad saved us." His voice cracked. He wouldn't lie about that. He wouldn't, he times couldn't asterisk. He did. I held up the newspaper clipping about Lily's remains being discovered. This is from 2016, 2 years after the apocalypse. The police found her body. Ethan. They identified her. They know she was murdered. That could be fake. Dad says there's fake news everywhere. Listen to me. I grabbed his hands, forcing him to look at me. I remember now. I remember Lily. I remember the night she died. I was there. I saw everything. You were sick. Stress reaction, Dad said. Dad said what he needed to say to keep us down here. Tears spilled down my cheeks. He killed our sister, Ethan. Not on purpose, not exactly, but he was angry. And he grabbed her. And she fell. And he covered it up. He buried her in the woods and told us the world ended, so we'd never find out. Ethan's face crumpled. He was 14, still a child. Really. Still young enough to believe in heroes and simple explanations. And I was destroying all of that, but I couldn't stop. We were out of time. Mom knows. She's known the whole time. And tonight, we're getting out of here. All of us. But I need you to trust me, Ethan. I need you to believe me. I can't. His voice broke into a sob. I can't. Maya, if what you're saying is true, then everything my whole life, was a lie. I know, and I'm sorry, but you still have the rest of your life ahead of you. A real life, in a real world, with real people, and real sky, and real everything. I cupped his face in my hands, forcing him to meet my eyes. You have a sister who loves you, a mother who's been trapped just like us, and a chance to start over. But only if we leave tonight, only if we escape. The silence stretched between us. Then, slowly, Ethan nodded. On 45 p.m., Mom met us in the main room, her face pale but determined. He's out, she whispered. I checked, he's completely unconscious. The pill always hits him hard. Good. I pulled the keyring from my pocket. I'd lifted it from Dad's nightstand while he was in the bathroom. Ethan's with us. Mom looked at my brother, saw the devastation in his eyes, and pulled him into a hug. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Ethan didn't respond. He just stood there, arms at his sides, letting himself be held. He'd stopped crying, but the emptiness in his expression was almost worse. We need to move, I said. Before he wakes up, Mom nodded and released Ethan. The truck is in the shed by the cabin. David keeps it maintained. He uses it for supply runs. Supply runs? I stared at her. You mean he goes to town? Once a month. Late at night. He thinks I don't know, but I've seen him leave. Shame colored her voice. He's been buying groceries, getting news, living a double life. While we rotted down here, another revelation. Another lie. But there was no time to process it. Let's go. The ladder was cold under my palms. The hatch was heavy. But nothing could have stopped me at that moment. I climbed. Mom followed. Then Ethan. And one by one, we emerged into the night. The surface was different this time. Not just because I'd seen it before, because I was seeing it as someone who was never coming back. The stars overhead, the pine trees swaying in the wind, the clean, cold air filling my lungs, all of it was freedom. All of it was proof that the nightmare was ending. The shed. Mom pointed toward a weathered structure about 50 feet from the bunker entrance. The truck should be inside. We moved quickly, quietly, our feet crunching on pine needles and fallen leaves. The night was dark, no moon, just stars, but my eyes had spent a decade adjusting to dim light. I could see everything, including the shed door, hanging open. Wait. I held up a hand. Something's wrong. We froze. From inside the shed came a sound, soft, rhythmic, mechanical, an engine. Running. He knew. Mom's voice was barely audible. Oh God. He knew. The shed lights flicked on, and there, sitting in the driver's seat of a truck that was already running, was Dad. He stepped out slowly, his movements calm, controlled. No rage, no panic. Just that cold, calculating expression I'd come to recognize as his true face. I wondered when you'd finally make your move. He leaned against the truck, arms crossed. I have to admit, Maya, you lasted longer than I expected. Your mother broke down after 3 years. I thought you'd crack by 15. David, Mom stepped forward. But I grabbed her arm. How long have you known? I demanded. About the radio? Since the first night you turned it on. He smiled, that warm, paternal smile that I now understood was just another mask. I installed monitoring software years ago, heard every signal you received, watched you piece together the truth, bit by bit. Then why didn't you stop me? Because I wanted to see how far you'd go, how much you'd figure out, whether you were smart enough to be a real threat. His smile widened. Turns out you are, just like Lily was. Ethan made a small, wounded sound. Don't, I warned Dad. Don't you dare say her name. Lily. 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 He pronounced each syllable like a weapon. Your sister. Your twin. The brave one. The one who couldn't follow rules, couldn't stay out of trouble, couldn't just be a good girl and do what she was told. He pushed off from the truck and walked toward us. I didn't mean to kill her. That's the truth. I grabbed her. She pulled away. She fell. An accident. A tragedy. But once it happened, he spread his hands. What choice did I have? Call the police? Go to prison? Way. Asinus. Go to prison. Lose everything I'd worked for? You could have faced the consequences. Mom's voice cracked. Like a man. Like a father. Fathers protect their families. Dad's voice hardened. That's what I've done for 10 years. Protected you. Kept you safe. Given you a life. A life? I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You call this a life? Locked underground, breathing recycled air, eating canned food, never seeing the sun? You're alive, aren't you? All of you. Together. That's more than Lily got. The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. We're leaving, I said. Right now. You can't stop all three of us. Dad studied me for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a pistol, the same pistol that had started everything 10 years ago. Actually, he said, I can. The gun gleamed in the starlight. I stared at it, the same pistol Lily had found in the closet, the same weapon that had started the chain of events leading to her death. Dad held it loosely, comfortably, like an extension of his own hand. Everyone back inside. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We're going to talk about this like a family. We're not a family. The words came out before I could stop them. We're prisoners. We've always been prisoners. Maya, you killed Lily. You buried her in the woods. You locked us underground for 10 years to cover it up. I took a step forward, even as Mom grabbed my arm. And now you're pointing a gun at your own wife and children. What part of this is Time's family asterisk? Dad's jaw tightened. For a moment, I saw it, the rage simmering beneath the surface, the same rage that had killed my sister. But he controlled it, pushed it down, became the calm, reasonable father again. I made a mistake 10 years ago. I've spent every day since trying to make up for it, keeping you safe, keeping us together. By lying to us? By stealing our lives? By times protecting times you. His voice rose, then dropped back to controlled calmness. You don't understand what's out there, Maya. The world isn't the paradise you think it is. Crime, violence, corruption. At least down here, I could control things, keep you safe, safe. I laughed. We haven't been safe a single day since you put us in that hole. Mom stepped forward, her body moving between me and the gun. David, please. Her voice trembled, but she didn't retreat. Put it down. Let's talk about this. No one has to get hurt. No one's going to get hurt, Sarah. As long as everyone cooperates. Dad gestured toward the bunker entrance with the gun. Back inside. All of you. We'll figure this out together. There's nothing to figure out. Mom's voice strengthened. It's over, David. Maya found the truth. Ethan knows. I can't keep lying anymore. You've been lying for 10 years. What's a few more? I can't. I won't. She straightened her spine, and I saw something I'd never seen before. My mother standing up to my father. I've been your accomplice, your prisoner, your puppet, but I'm done. Whatever happens next, I'm time's done. Asterisk. Dad stared at her. His expression unreadable. Sarah, think about what you're saying. I've had 10 years to think, David. 10 years of guilt. 10 years of watching our daughter grow up without sunlight, without friends, without her twin sister. Mom's voice cracked, but she kept going. I should have stopped you that night. I should have called the police myself. Instead, I let fear control me. I let you control me. And our daughters paid the price. I did what I had to do. You did what was easiest for times, you asterisk. Mom was crying now, but her voice only grew stronger. You buried Lily like she was garbage. You erased her from our lives. You made Maya forget her own sister. And then you locked us away so you'd never have to face what you'd done. I was protecting this family. You were protecting yourself. The accusation echoed across the clearing, silencing everything. Dad's mask slipped. The rage flared hot, wild, uncontrolled. The same rage I remembered from October 3rd, and in that moment, I understood. He wasn't going to let us go. He couldn't let us go, because if we left, the truth came with us, and the truth would destroy him, Ethan. Dad's voice changed, softening, as he turned to my brother. You understand, don't you? You know I've only ever tried to protect you. Ethan stood frozen, his face a battlefield of emotions. I taught you everything, Dad continued. How to survive, how to think, how to be a man. Everything you are is because of me. Everything I am, Ethan whispered, is because you killed my sister and locked me in a hole. Dad flinched. For the first time, genuine hurt crossed his features. That's not. I had a sister. Ethan's voice grew stronger. A twin sister I never got to know. I was 4 years old when you took me down there. 4. I don't remember what grass feels like. I don't remember what rain sounds like. I don't remember times. Anything. Times except that bunker and your lies. I was protecting you. From what? Ethan screamed, finally breaking. From a world that was perfectly fine? From people who could have helped us? From having a times life asterisk? He stepped toward Dad, tears streaming down his face. I believed you. I believed everything you said. I thought you were a hero, the man who saved us from the apocalypse. But there was no apocalypse. There was just you, hiding from what you did, making us hide with you. Ethan, please. I loved you. The words came out broken, shattered. I loved you, and you're a murderer. Dad's hand shook. The gun wavered, and I saw my chance. I moved before I could think. 1 step. 2. Close enough to grab Dad's arm, to shove the gun away from my family. The pistol went off. The sound split the night, a crack that echoed off the trees and sent birds scattering into the darkness. I felt the heat of the discharge near my face, heard Mom scream, but I didn't stop. I fought. 18 years old, thin from bunker rations, but filled with 10 years of rage, 10 years of grief, 10 years of stolen life. I clawed at Dad's face, kicked at his legs, bit his hand when it came near my mouth. I fought dirty, fought desperate, fought like Lily would have fought. And then Mom was there too. And Ethan, 3 against 1. A family finally united not by Dad's lies, but against them. Dad stumbled backward, losing his grip on the gun. It clattered to the ground, and I dove for it, scooping it up before he could react. I stood over my father with the weapon in my hands. He lay in the dirt, blood trickling from a scratch on his cheek where my nails had connected. His eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, stared up at me with something I'd never seen before. Fear. Maya. His voice was different now. Smaller. Please. I'm your father. My father died 10 years ago. I clicked off the safety. The man who killed Lily and took his place, I don't know who you are. I made mistakes. I know that. But I did it for love. Everything I did because I love this family. You don't know what love is. Mom stepped up beside me, her hand resting on my shoulder. Love doesn't imprison. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't bury secrets and expect them to stay buried forever. Sarah, it's over, David. She turned to me. Maya, give me the gun. I hesitated. It's over, Mom repeated, gentler this time. We don't need to hurt him. We just need to leave. Let the police deal with the rest. She was right. I knew she was right. But part of me, the part that remembered Lily's eyes going empty, the part that had spent a decade forgetting and then remembering, wanted to pull the trigger, wanted to end him the way he'd ended my sister. I looked at Ethan, at Mom, at the stars overhead, the real stars, in a real sky, on a surface I'd thought I'd never see again. And I handed Mom the gun. Go. I pointed at Dad. Get in the bunker. What? You heard me. Go back down there. Live in the hole you made for us. I smiled a cold, hard smile that felt foreign on my face. We're taking the truck. When we reach town, we'll send the police. You can explain everything to them. Dad's face twisted. You can't leave me here. Watch us. Mom trained the gun on him while Ethan and I climbed into the truck. The keys were already in the ignition. The engine hummed. Ready. Waiting. Through the windshield, I watched my father, the man I'd loved, trusted, believed for 18 years, crawl toward the bunker entrance like a wounded animal seeking shelter. He paused at the hatch, looking back. Maya. His voice carried across the clearing. I did love you. All of you. That part wasn't a lie. I didn't answer. Mom climbed into the passenger seat, closing the door. Ethan sat behind us, silent, shell-shocked. I put the truck in gear, and we drove away from the prison that had held us for 10 years. Into the night, into freedom, into a world that had been waiting for us all along. The road unspooled before us like a ribbon of hope. I drove too fast, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, my eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of pursuit. The truck's headlights carved a tunnel through the night, illuminating pine trees and dirt road and, eventually, asphalt. Real asphalt. A real road, leading to a real world. Mom sat beside me, the gun in her lap, her gaze fixed on the side mirror, watching for Dad's silhouette emerging from the darkness. But the mirror stayed empty. We'd left him behind. We'd actually left him behind. How far to town? Ethan's voice came from the back seat, small, hollow. The voice of a child who'd just watched his entire world collapse. 15 miles, according to the signs. I glanced at the dashboard. The gas gauge showed 3/4 full. More than enough. We'll be there in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. After 10 years underground, freedom was 20 minutes away. I pressed the accelerator harder. Pine Ridge looked like something from a movie. A main street with actual streetlights. Storefronts with neon signs, some still lit even at 1 a.m. Cars parked along the curb, buildings that weren't concrete boxes. Space. Openness. Sky. I pulled into the parking lot of the first building with lights on a 2-4-hour gas station with a flickering open sign. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the ignition. Stay here, I told Mom and Ethan. I'll go in first. Maya, if something goes wrong, drive. Don't wait for me. Just drive. I didn't give her time to argue. I stepped out of the truck and walked toward the gas station on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. The bell above the door chimed as I entered. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead brighter than anything in the bunker, painful after a decade of dim emergency lighting. Shelves lined with snacks and drinks and magazines with glossy covers, a refrigerator case humming with cold sodas, a coffee machine gurgling in the corner, and behind the counter, a young woman about my age, staring at me with wide eyes. I must have looked insane, pale, wild-eyed, dressed in clothes that were 10 years out of style, trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. Are you okay? The woman asked. Do you need help? The words unlocked something in me. A dam breaking. A flood finally released. Yes. My voice cracked. Please, I need to call the police. My family, we've been held captive. For 10 years. Underground. My father, he killed my sister, and we just escaped. I was crying now. Sobbing. Making no sense. But the woman didn't hesitate. She picked up her phone and dialed 911. I need police at the Pine Ridge Quick Stop immediately. There's a young woman here, she says she's been held captive. She needs help. She put the phone down and came around the counter, moving slowly, carefully, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. It's okay, she said softly. Help is coming. You're safe now. Safe. I'd forgotten what that word meant. The police arrived in 7 minutes. 2 officers, a middle-aged man named Morrison and a younger woman named Reyes. They took one look at me, at my condition, at the incoherent story tumbling from my lips, and called for backup. Within an hour, the gas station parking lot was filled with squad cars, ambulances, and a growing crowd of bewildered locals who'd heard the commotion and come to investigate. Mom and Ethan were wrapped in blankets, sitting in the back of an ambulance, while paramedics checked their vitals. I sat in Officer Morrison's patrol car, trying to explain 10 years of horror in words that made sense. "Let me make sure I understand," Morrison said, his voice patient but skeptical. "You're saying your father told you there was a nuclear war in 2014, kept you in an underground bunker for 10 years, and the whole thing was a lie to cover up your sister's death, and your sister Lily Chen, her remains were found in 2016? Yes. I found the newspaper articles in his office. The police identified her. They knew she was connected to our family's disappearance." Morrison exchanged a glance with his partner. "Ma'am, the Lily Chen case is still open. It's one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in this county." He leaned forward. "If what you're saying is true, it's true. All of it." I met his eyes. "My name is Maya Chen. I was 8 years old when my father took us underground. I'm 18 now, and my father is David Chen, the man you've been looking for 10 years. They found him at the bunker. A team of officers drove out to the property at dawn, following the directions I'd provided. They found the cabin, the hidden entrance, the concrete structure beneath the earth, and they found Dad. He was sitting in the main room when they arrived, waiting. He didn't resist, didn't run, just stood up, placed his hands behind his back, and let them cuff him. "I want a lawyer," was all he said. The officers led him out of the bunker, into the light of a morning he'd tried to convince us would never come. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. The story was already spreading. The family who'd been held underground for a decade. The father who'd faked the apocalypse. I watched it all from the back of a police car. Still wrapped in my emergency blanket. Still trying to comprehend that it was real. We were free. After 10 years, we were finally free. The next few days were a blur. Interviews with police. Meetings with social workers. Medical examinations that revealed the toll a decade underground had taken on our bodies: vitamin deficiencies, muscle atrophy, psychological trauma that would take years to address. Reporters camped outside the hospital where we'd been admitted for observation. The bunker family. The headlines screamed. 10 years of lies. Father faked apocalypse to hide murder. The story went national within hours. International within days. Everyone wanted to know how it had happened, how we'd survived, how we'd finally escaped. I didn't want to talk about it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I did have one thing left to do. Asterisk, asterisk. The 24th of October, 2024. Asterisk. Asterisk. 1 week after our escape, I stood at the edge of a forest clearing, 15 miles from the bunker that had been my prison. Yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the wind. A small marker had been placed at the spot where investigators had located Lily's remains years ago, remains that had finally been connected to a name, a family, a story. My twin sister had been buried here for 10 years, alone, forgotten, unnamed. Until now, I knelt in the dirt, my fingers brushing the cold earth. "I found you," I whispered. "I finally found you." The wind stirred the trees. Somewhere, a bird sang. "I'm sorry I forgot you, Lily. I'm sorry it took so long. But I remember now. I remember everything." Tears streamed down my face. "You were brave. You were curious. You were the best parts of me. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure no one forgets you again." I pulled the photograph from my pocket, the last picture of us together. 2 girls in matching dresses, smiling at a camera that had captured a moment before everything fell apart. "Rest now," I said. "I'll carry both of us from here." I pressed the photograph to my heart, and I let my sister go. Asterisk, asterisk. 6 months later. April 2025. Asterisk. Asterisk. Spring came to Montana like a revelation. I stood at the window of our small apartment in Missoula, watching cherry blossoms drift past like pink snow. 6 months ago, I didn't know what cherry blossoms looked like, didn't know the sound of traffic, or the smell of rain on warm pavement, or the feeling of sun on skin that hadn't seen daylight in a decade. Now I was learning everything again. Maya? Mom's voice came from the kitchen. Breakfast is ready. Coming. I took one last look at the blossoms, then turned away from the window. Some days, I still expected to see concrete walls. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, a living room barely big enough for a couch, a kitchen where you could touch both counters at once. But it had windows, real windows, with real light, looking out at a real world. After the bunker, it felt like a palace. Mom stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with a confidence she'd never had underground. 6 months of therapy, of support groups, of slowly rebuilding her sense of self, had transformed her. She smiled now, laughed sometimes, made eye contact with strangers. She was still broken in ways that might never fully heal. But she was times, trying asterisk. Ethan's still in bed, she said as I sat down. I heard him up late again. Nightmares? Probably. She set a plate in front of me. His therapist says they'll fade with time. Time. That was the answer to everything now. Give it time. Healing takes time. Recovery takes time. I was tired of time. I'd already lost 10 years of it. Ethan emerged around noon, dark circles under his eyes, his movements slow and heavy. At 14, he should have been worrying about school and friends, and whether his crush liked him back. Instead, he was trying to process a lifetime of lies, a father's betrayal, and a world that was simultaneously bigger and more complicated than anything he'd imagined. We'd enrolled him in a local school 2 months ago. The transition had been rough. The other kids didn't know how to relate to someone who'd missed a decade of shared experiences. No movies, no music, no memes, no cultural touchstones. Ethan was learning, catching up. But the gap was enormous. Morning, he mumbled, dropping into a chair. It's afternoon. Whatever. He poked at the pancakes Mom set in front of him. I had that dream again. The one where we're back in the bunker, and the hatch is sealed, and nobody can hear us screaming. Mom and I exchanged glances. It was just a dream, I said. We're never going back there. I know. He didn't sound convinced. But sometimes, it feels like I never really left. The trial was scheduled for June. Dad had been charged with involuntary manslaughter for Lily's death, abuse of a corpse for the illegal burial, false imprisonment for the decade underground, and a dozen other charges that the prosecutors were still adding. His lawyers had tried for bail, but the judge had denied it flight risk, she'd said. As if the man who'd hidden his family underground for 10 years might try to disappear again. He was in the county jail now, awaiting trial. I hadn't visited, hadn't spoken to him, hadn't responded to the letters he'd sent, pages of justifications and apologies and pleas for understanding that I'd burned without reading. Mom had gone once. Just once. She came back pale and shaking and didn't speak for 3 days. We didn't ask what he'd said. May 2025. Dr. Rebecca Torres had an office full of plants. That was the first thing I'd noticed when we started therapy real. Living plants everywhere, their leaves reaching toward the sunlight streaming through the windows. After a decade of artificial everything, the greenery felt like a miracle. How are you feeling today, Maya? Dr. Torres asked, her pen poised over her notepad. Overwhelmed, grateful, angry, sad. I laughed. Sometimes all at once. That's normal. Recovery isn't linear. People keep saying that because it's true. She set down her pen. You've made remarkable progress in 6 months. You're enrolled in community college. You're maintaining relationships with your mother and brother. You're engaging with the world in ways that would have seemed impossible a year ago. But you're still carrying Lily with you. Not as a memory, as a weight. I looked down at my hands. The photograph, the last photograph, was tucked into my pocket. As always, I carried it everywhere. She was my twin, my other half. How am I supposed to let that go? You're not. Dr. Torres leaned forward. You're not supposed to let her go, Maya. You're supposed to integrate her, to carry her with you in a way that enriches your life instead of anchoring you to the past. By living. By experiencing all the things she never got to experience. By being curious and brave and alive the way she was before your father took that from her. Dr. Torres smiled gently. Every sunrise you see, every new thing you learn, every moment of joy you allow yourself. That's how you honor Lily. Not by mourning forever, by times living asterisk. June 2025. The trial. The courtroom was packed. Media. Lawyers. Curious onlookers who'd followed the Bunker family's story and wanted to see how it ended. And us, Mom, Ethan, and me sitting in the front row, waiting to hear judgment pronounced on the man who'd stolen a decade of our lives. Dad looked smaller than I remembered. Older. The confidence that had made him seem invincible in the bunker was gone, replaced by something shrunken and diminished. Prison had not been kind to him. Our eyes met across the courtroom. He tried to smile, that warm, paternal smile that used to make me feel safe. I looked away. The charges were read. The evidence was presented. Witnesses testified, police officers, forensic experts, psychologists who explained the mechanisms of coercive control. And then it was my turn. I walked to the witness stand, on legs that trembled but didn't buckle. The prosecutor asked me questions I'd prepared for about the bunker, about the lies, about the night I discovered the truth. But then he asked something I hadn't expected. Miss Chen, do you have anything you'd like to say to the defendant? I looked at Dad, at the man who'd been my hero, my protector, my prison warden. You told me you did everything for love, I said. That you were keeping us safe, that the world was too dangerous and only you could protect us. Dad's eyes glistened. He leaned forward, desperate to hear something. Forgiveness, maybe. Understanding. But love doesn't imprison. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't bury children in the woods and pretend they never existed. My voice broke, but I kept going. You didn't protect us. You stole us. You stole our lives, our memories, our truth. You stole my sister twice. Once when she died, and again when you made me forget her. I took a breath. I don't forgive you. Maybe I never will. But I'm not going to let you define the rest of my life. I'm going to live, really live, for the first time in 10 years. I'm going to see sunsets and make friends and fall in love and experience everything you tried to keep from me. I stood up straighter. And every good thing that happens to me from this moment forward, that's my revenge. That's justice for Lily. That's what you can't take away. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Dad to 25 years to life, the maximum allowed under the circumstances. He'd be eligible for parole in 15 years. He'd be 77 by then, assuming he survived. I felt nothing. No triumph, no closure, just emptiness where revenge was supposed to be, and a quiet understanding that justice, when it finally comes, rarely feels as satisfying as we imagine. But it was done. Finally, it was done. **. 1 year later, October 2025. **. The memorial was simple. A small headstone in Pine Ridge Cemetery, marking the spot where Lily's remains had been properly buried. Her name, her dates, and an epitaph we'd chosen together. **. Lily, Rose, Chen, **. The 15th of March, 2006. The 3rd of October 2014. **. Beloved daughter, sister, twin, **. Too special for this world, but never forgotten. Mom had resisted that last line at first. That's what David said, she pointed out, when he was making Maya forget, but I'd insisted. Dad used those words to erase her, I said. I'm using them to remember, to take them back, to make them mean something true. We stood at the grave, Mom, Ethan, and me, on the 1-year anniversary of our escape. The autumn leaves had turned gold and red, carpeting the cemetery in color. I placed a photograph on Lily's headstone, the last picture of us together. I'm starting college next semester, I told her. Environmental science. I want to study the outdoors, the places I missed while we were underground. I think you'd like that. The wind stirred the leaves. Ethan's doing better. He made the basketball team, can you believe it? The kid who'd never held a ball before is actually good at sports. He has your stubbornness, your refusal to give up. Somewhere, a bird sang. Mom's seeing someone, a man she met at her support group. It's new, but she's happy, actually happy, not just pretending. You'd barely recognize her. I wiped my eyes. I miss you, Lily. Every day. But I'm not sad anymore, or not just sad. I'm grateful. Grateful that I had you for 8 years. Grateful that I finally remembered. Grateful that your story didn't end in a hole in the ground, even if mine almost did. I touched the cold stone. I love you. Always have. Always will. Then I turned away from the grave, toward my mother and brother, toward the world that was waiting. The sun was setting, and I walked into the light. Epilogue. Maya Chen graduated from the University of Montana in 2029 with a degree in environmental science. She now works as a park ranger in Glacier National Park, introducing visitors to the wilderness she was denied for a decade. Asterisk. Sarah Chen remarried in 2027. She volunteers at a crisis center for victims of domestic abuse, using her experience to help others escape controlling relationships. Asterisk. Ethan Chen graduated high school with honors and received a full scholarship to Stanford. He's studying psychology with a focus on trauma recovery and family dynamics. Asterisk. David Chen died in prison in 2031, age 59, from complications related to a stroke. He never expressed remorse for his actions. Asterisk. Lily Chen's grave has become a small pilgrimage site for survivors of family abuse. People leave flowers, notes, and photographs, tributes to a girl who never got to grow up, but whose story helped others find the courage to escape their own bunkers. Asterisk. The bunker itself was sealed by authorities in 2026. A small marker at the entrance reads, "Never forget what fear can make us do and what love can help us survive." Asterisk.